What if the kindest thing you've ever done has been slowly destroying your life? What if every time you said yes when your heart was screaming, no, you gave away another piece of your freedom? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you'll discover why people pleasing is not kindness and how breaking free from it can completely transform your confidence, your relationships, and your future. Before we begin, answer this honestly in the comments. Have you ever agreed to something just because you were afraid someone would be disappointed? Type yes if you have. Most people believe that being liked is the same as being respected. It isn't. Being liked often requires comfort. Being respected requires standards. People pleasers spend their lives trying to avoid conflict. They apologize when they did nothing wrong. They say yes when they are exhausted. They stay silent when they should speak. They sacrifice their own peace to protect someone else's temporary comfort. And slowly, they forget who they really are. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every time you ignore your own needs to gain approval, you teach people that your boundaries are optional, not because people are cruel, because your actions become your instructions. People rarely treat you better than the standards you consistently enforce. That is why self-respect always comes before respect from others. You cannot expect people to value your time if you give it away without thought. You cannot expect people to respect your limits if you refuse to protect them yourself. If this message is helping you see yourself differently, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. It helps more people build confidence, self-respect, and emotional strength, and you'll never miss future lessons like this. One of the greatest fears of a people pleaser is disappointing others. But listen carefully. No matter how hard you try, someone will always disagree with you. Someone will misunderstand you. Someone will criticize your choices. Trying to satisfy everyone is an impossible mission. The cost is always your own peace of mind. Strong people understand something different. Disappointment is not failure. It is often the natural result of living honestly. Sometimes the most respectful answer is no. Sometimes the healthiest decision is walking away. Sometimes protecting your future requires upsetting someone who expected unlimited access to your time and energy. That does not make you selfish, it makes you responsible. Real kindness does not require self-destruction. Real generosity does not require abandoning your values. The people who truly care about you may not always like your boundaries, but they will eventually respect them. Those who become angry because you stopped pleasing them often reveal that they benefited more from your compliance than they valued your well-being. Choose authenticity over approval. Speak honestly. Honor your commitments. Protect your peace. The people meant to remain in your life will appreciate the real version of you, not the version that exists only to make everyone else comfortable. Remember this. Your worth has never been determined by how many people you can satisfy. It has always been determined by the integrity with which you live your own life. If this message changed your perspective, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And always remember, the day you stop living for everyone else's approval is the day you finally begin living for yourself. Seeking approval from others is one of the most common habits that quietly limits personal freedom. From an early age, many people are taught to gain acceptance by meeting expectations, avoiding conflict, and making everyone around them happy. While kindness, respect, and cooperation are valuable qualities, constantly depending on other people's approval for your happiness creates an unhealthy pattern. Your emotions begin to rise and fall based on compliments, criticism, acceptance, or rejection. Instead of making decisions according to your values, you begin making them according to what you think will earn the most approval. Over time, this habit causes you to lose touch with your authentic identity. The desire to be liked is natural because human beings are social by nature. The problem begins when acceptance becomes more important than honesty. Some people stay silent when they should express an opinion because they fear disagreement. Others agree to commitments they cannot fulfill because they worry about disappointing someone. Some even abandon personal dreams simply because they are afraid of being judged or misunderstood. In every case, the need for approval becomes stronger than the desire to live authentically. Depending on approval also gives other people unnecessary control over your emotional well-being. When someone praises you, you feel valuable. When someone criticizes you, you begin questioning your worth. This creates an unstable foundation because people's opinions constantly change. You cannot build lasting confidence on something so unpredictable. Real confidence grows when your self-worth comes from your character, your discipline, and your commitment to living according to your principles, rather than the changing opinions of others. Breaking free from approval seeking does not mean ignoring feedback or becoming arrogant. Wise people still listen to constructive advice because they understand that growth requires learning. The difference is that they evaluate feedback thoughtfully instead of allowing every opinion to define their identity. They ask themselves whether criticism is useful, whether it aligns with their values, and whether it helps them become a better person. If it does, they learn from it. If it does not, they let it go without allowing it to damage their confidence. The moment you stop chasing approval from everyone, you begin making decisions with greater clarity and purpose. You become more willing to speak honestly, protect your boundaries, and pursue meaningful goals even when others disagree. Your happiness is no longer controlled by temporary praise or criticism because it is rooted in self-respect, personal growth, and the quiet confidence that comes from living according to your own values rather than constantly seeking permission to be yourself. Learning to say no without guilt is one of the most important skills for protecting your peace, your time, and your self-respect. Many people struggle with this because they fear disappointing others or being seen as selfish. They believe that saying yes to every request makes them kind, generous, or dependable. While helping others is a valuable quality, constantly sacrificing your own needs eventually leads to exhaustion, frustration, and resentment. A person who never says no often becomes overwhelmed, not because they lack ability, but because they have allowed everyone else's priorities to become more important than their own. Guilt often appears because people confuse boundaries with rejection. Saying no to a request does not mean rejecting the person who made it. It simply means recognizing that your time, energy, and attention are limited resources. Every yes you give carries a cost. If you agree to something that does not align with your priorities, you are giving up time that could have been spent resting, improving yourself, strengthening important relationships, or pursuing meaningful goals. Understanding this helps you realize that saying no is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of responsibility. Healthy boundaries also teach other people how to treat you. If you always agree to last-minute favors, tolerate repeated interruptions, or accept unreasonable demands, others may begin expecting unlimited access to your time. Most people do not intentionally cross boundaries. They simply respond to the standards you consistently demonstrate. When you calmly and respectfully decline requests that do not fit your priorities, you communicate that your time has value and that your willingness to help does not come at the expense of your own well-being. Saying no becomes easier when you stop feeling obligated to provide lengthy explanations. A respectful, honest response is often enough. You do not need to defend every decision or convince everyone to agree with your choices. People who genuinely respect you may feel disappointed occasionally, but they will understand that boundaries are a normal part of healthy relationships. Those who become angry because you finally protect your time often reveal that they benefited more from your lack of boundaries than from your friendship. Every time you say no to something that weakens your peace, you create room to say yes to what truly matters. You strengthen your confidence because your actions begin reflecting your priorities instead of your fear of disappointing others. Over time, healthy boundaries become a natural expression of self-respect, allowing you to build relationships based on mutual understanding, respect, and genuine appreciation rather than obligation or guilt. Many people grow up believing that their value depends on how useful they are to others. They receive praise when they solve problems, make sacrifices, or place everyone else's needs before their own. Over time, they begin to believe that love, acceptance, and respect must be earned through constant giving. This mindset can quietly become dangerous because it teaches a person that they deserve appreciation only when they are providing something in return. Eventually, they start measuring their worth by how much they can do for others instead of recognizing the value they already possess through their character and integrity. Helping others is a noble quality, but it should come from generosity rather than fear. There is a significant difference between choosing to help because you genuinely want to and feeling forced to help because you are afraid of disappointing people or losing their approval. When your kindness is motivated by fear instead of choice, it becomes a burden rather than an expression of compassion. You may find yourself agreeing to requests that exhaust you, ignoring your own responsibilities, or sacrificing your well-being simply to avoid saying no. Instead of feeling fulfilled, you slowly become emotionally drained because your giving is no longer balanced by self-respect. People who measure their worth by their usefulness often struggle to receive as well. They feel uncomfortable asking for help, accepting support, or admitting they are overwhelmed because they fear appearing weak. They become the person everyone depends on while secretly carrying burdens they never share. This imbalance creates relationships where they are appreciated for what they provide rather than for who they truly are. Genuine relationships, however, are built on mutual care, where both people can give and receive without guilt or obligation. Your character is far more valuable than your constant availability. Qualities such as honesty, integrity, kindness, wisdom, loyalty, and emotional maturity cannot be measured by the number of favors you perform. These qualities remain part of who you are, even when you are unable to help someone. People who truly value you will respect your boundaries, appreciate your presence, and care about your well-being, not just your usefulness. When you understand that your worth comes from your character instead of your sacrifices, you begin making healthier decisions. You help because you choose to, not because you fear rejection. You protect your energy without feeling selfish, and you allow your relationships to be built on respect instead of obligation. This shift creates greater emotional freedom, stronger boundaries, and the confidence to believe that you are worthy of love and respect, simply because of the person you are becoming. One of the hardest truths to accept is that, no matter how kind, generous, or thoughtful you are, you will never be able to make everyone happy. Every person has different expectations, beliefs, experiences, and desires. What pleases one individual may disappoint another. Yet many people spend years trying to satisfy everyone around them, believing that if they work harder, give more, or avoid conflict, they can earn universal approval. This pursuit is impossible because human expectations constantly change. The more you attempt to meet every expectation, the more you neglect your own needs, values, and long-term well-being. People pleasers often see disappointment as something to avoid at all costs. They apologize excessively, agree to commitments they cannot manage, and remain silent when they should speak honestly. Their decisions are guided by fear rather than wisdom. They fear rejection, criticism, or being misunderstood, so they sacrifice their own happiness to keep temporary peace. Unfortunately, this habit rarely creates genuine respect. Instead, it teaches others that your boundaries can be ignored because you are willing to abandon your own priorities whenever someone else is unhappy. Accepting that disappointment is unavoidable changes your perspective. You begin to understand that another person's disappointment does not automatically mean you have done something wrong. Sometimes people are disappointed simply because you chose to protect your time, decline an unreasonable request, or pursue a path that does not match their expectations. Their emotional reaction belongs to them, not to you. Your responsibility is to act with honesty, kindness, and integrity, not to manage every emotion another person experiences. This understanding also strengthens your decision-making. Instead of asking yourself, will everyone approve of this choice? You begin asking, is this decision consistent with my values and responsibilities? That simple shift allows you to act with greater confidence because your choices are guided by principles rather than fear of criticism. While some people may disagree with your decision, those who genuinely respect you will appreciate your honesty and consistency over time. Living authentically requires the courage to accept occasional misunderstanding and disappointment. Healthy relationships are strong enough to survive honest conversations, reasonable boundaries, and differing opinions. Those built entirely on constant agreement are often fragile because they depend on one person continually sacrificing themselves. When you stop measuring your success by how many people you keep happy, you gain the freedom to build a life based on truth, self-respect, and meaningful purpose, allowing your decisions to reflect your character instead of becoming controlled by the impossible expectation of pleasing everyone. Self-respect is not something that appears overnight or is given to you by other people. It is built through the decisions you make every day, especially the difficult ones. Anyone can follow their values when the choice is easy, but true character is revealed when doing the right thing requires sacrifice. Every time you choose honesty over convenience, discipline over comfort, or integrity over approval, you strengthen the relationship you have with yourself. These moments may seem small, but they quietly shape your identity. Over time, your confidence no longer depends on what others think because it is supported by a history of choices that reflect your principles. Many people lose self-respect without realizing it. They remain silent when they should speak, agree with opinions they do not believe, or tolerate disrespect simply to avoid conflict. Each time they ignore their own values for the sake of acceptance, they send themselves a message that other people's comfort is more important than their own truth. While these compromises may provide temporary approval, they often leave behind feelings of frustration, regret, and resentment. The greatest cost is not the disagreement they avoided, but the trust they slowly lose in themselves. Difficult choices often involve short-term discomfort, but long-term growth. Saying no to an unreasonable request may disappoint someone today, but it protects your peace tomorrow. Leaving an unhealthy relationship may feel painful in the moment, but it creates space for healthier connections in the future. Speaking honestly may invite criticism, but it also allows you to live without pretending to be someone you are not. Every courageous decision becomes evidence that you are capable of honoring your values, even when doing so is uncomfortable. Self-respect also changes the standards you accept from others. When you consistently act according to your principles, you become less willing to tolerate manipulation, dishonesty, or one-sided relationships. You no longer feel the need to earn respect by abandoning your boundaries because you already understand your own worth. This inner confidence influences the way people respond to you. They recognize that your kindness is supported by strength rather than by fear of rejection. Building self-respect is a lifelong process of choosing integrity over convenience, courage over comfort, and authenticity over approval. Every difficult decision that aligns with your principles strengthens your confidence because it proves that your values are more powerful than your fears. As these choices accumulate over time, they create a foundation of inner strength that cannot be easily shaken by criticism, rejection, or the changing opinions of others. Choosing authenticity over acceptance is one of the most liberating decisions a person can make. Many people spend years shaping their personality, opinions, and behavior around what they believe others want to see. They hide their true thoughts, suppress their emotions, and constantly adjust themselves to fit into different groups. At first, this may seem like the easiest way to avoid rejection, but over time it creates a painful disconnect between who they truly are and the image they present to the world. The more they chase acceptance by pretending to be someone else, the further they drift from their own identity. Authenticity requires courage because it means accepting that not everyone will understand, agree with, or appreciate you. There will always be people who prefer the version of you that never says no, never disagrees, and never changes. However, living only to satisfy those expectations comes at a high price. You may gain temporary approval, but you lose the freedom to live according to your own values. Real confidence begins when you stop asking, "What do they want me to be?" and start asking, "Who do I truly want to become?" That simple shift changes the direction of your entire life. Real relationships are built on honesty, not performance. When people know the authentic version of you, they have the opportunity to appreciate your genuine character instead of a carefully maintained image. Healthy friendships, strong families, and meaningful partnerships grow stronger through open communication, mutual respect, and the willingness to be honest even when conversations become uncomfortable. Relationships that survive only because you constantly pretend, agree, or sacrifice your identity are often fragile because they depend on conditions rather than genuine connection. Authenticity does not mean becoming rude, insensitive, or refusing to consider other people's feelings. You can speak honestly with kindness, express disagreement with respect, and protect your boundaries without creating unnecessary conflict. The goal is not to reject people, but to stop rejecting yourself in order to keep everyone else comfortable. When your actions consistently reflect your beliefs, your words carry greater confidence because they come from conviction rather than fear. As you choose authenticity over acceptance, something remarkable happens. The pressure to impress everyone begins to disappear. You attract people who appreciate your honesty, your values, and your character, instead of those who only valued your willingness to please them. Your confidence becomes rooted in self-respect rather than public approval, allowing you to live with greater peace, stronger relationships, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that the person the world sees is the same person you truly are.